Today I want to show you guys how to make a swag for your door for the holidays. And swags are great for a lot of different reasons. They don't take very many supplies, they don't take as much time as making a wreath, and they're way easier. So I've got pretty much everything I need to make a swag that looks pretty much like this on my table. So I'm going to set this one aside and just kind of go through this stuff. So I've got a noble fir bough right here. This is actually going to be our form. This is what we're going to build the whole swag on top of because it's nice and sturdy. But you can use whatever you have on hand. Like if you have a blue spruce out in your garden, use a branch off of that. You just want it to be scaled to your door properly. So if you've got a really big door, you'll need a little bit bigger branch and so on. I've got some Polar Gold Arborvitae right here, and I'm using this because it's got such a nice contrast of color and texture to the noble fir. It's got little yellow tips there, and it's a little bit more ferny and lightly textured. And then I've also got some princess pine, and you can see like I've only got one branch of noble fir, one of arborvitae, just a couple of pine branches, little ones. And then I've got one branch of berry heavy winterberry holly, which is going to bring some beautiful color. I mean, just look at that, just stacked right there. Looks awesome. Then I've got a few pine cones that I just gathered out from underneath my blue spruce tree. So I may or may not be using these. And then in terms of just like other supplies here, I've got my pruners, scissors, some 22 gauge paddle wire here, and then some decorative ribbon that I'll be using in the very end. So let's start with the noble fir bough first. And what I'm going to do is clip off anything that's kind of wild, that's kind of going against the shape that I want it to be. So those two that were kind of facing forward, I cut off. Also, you know what? I think that this is actually the size that I want this one to end up being, so I'm going to leave it alone. If you have a smaller door, you could take the branch down a little bit to create a smaller shape. But this is a really perfect form because it's already got kind of that teardrop shape that we're going for. If you do not have a fir tree or pine tree, spruce tree in your garden, you can visit a Christmas tree lot this time of year. Oftentimes they have a whole bin full of these types of branches that they've cut off the bottom of Christmas trees, and they give them away for free. So you could swing by one of those and just pick up one or two of these, and you can just build yourself something pretty. Like honestly, if you wanted to just put pine cones and some ornaments or something on top of just this, I think it would still be pretty. So what we want to do is get a piece of 22 gauge wire, and I'm cutting off about like 12, 14 inches or so. I'm going to flip this pine bough over, fir bough. And what we want to do is create a hook on the back so we have some way to hang it in the end. So what I do is just wrap it around and then twist it really tightly several times. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to twist it back underneath. I do not want this thing falling off. So twist it twice, and then I'm going to create a loop about like this and twist it again just on itself several times. And then what I like to do is just fold the wire down, the tails down, and twist them back around each side of the loop. Like that. So see right there, we've got a way to hang it. So then let's turn it back over and cut another piece of wire about the same length. And I just like to lay the wire underneath the bough flat, or as flat as it can be anyway. And we'll use that in just a second. This is what is going to help us attach all the branches to the top. It's just nice to have that piece already ready. So let me grab my arborvitae. I'm just going to lay that, kind of like letting the fir kind of stick out of the bottom there. That looks really pretty. Again, I'm going to take my pruners, cut it to size. And then if I want it to be a little bit more airy in any section, like right here, it's a little bit much. So I'm going to cut this out. If you ever find yourself with holes, you can always individually wire pieces back in. But I think that that looks really pretty. Now I'm going to go in with some pine. Okay, so this is going to be kind of my long piece. So kind of go down and mirror the point. And then this one's kind of wild. It's got a bunch of side shoots. So I'm going to clip those off just up a ways. And then place it down the way so that I've kind of got a nice triangular shape with the pine. Trimming off the ends. And I'm gonna save all of these little pieces because I might need them in the end. Next is the winterberry holly. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Just sitting there, I love it. And then we've got one little branch that I'm gonna save for the end because I might, actually, you know what? I might just go ahead and lay that one right there. Now I'm gonna take the wire that I had laying on the table, feed it kind of up through here, and then we just need to twist it for all we are worth. Because as greens start to dry out, they will shrink a little bit. So you want your wire to be really, really tight so that when they do shrivel a little bit, they don't get loose and fall out. Okay, then I'm gonna take it back underneath, twist it off down below, and then that's it for this part. And if you find yourself with like extra tail down here, like I had one side that was a little bit long, I can just fold it underneath the whole swag because you can't see it. So that's pretty much like the basic construction of a swag right there. Now you can start adding in some more decorative elements like pine cones. So I kind of like to set mine in there to kind of see what it looks like and determine where I want all of my pine cones to lie. I think I'm just gonna go with, well, maybe I'll do them kind of like this. Then I'll take more wire. And what we want to do is create a false stem for each one of these pine cones. So let me show you how to do that. Just take the end of your wire and just kind of feed it around some of the end of the pine cone there, and it just stays in really nicely. Twist it, twist the wire, and then there you have it. There's a false stem. I cut this wire way too long. Hold on. There we go. Then we'll kind of feed it in, the wire in, right until we get the pine cone right where we like it, which I like it right there. Then I just find the nearest branch to tie the wire off onto. Beauty of the green wires, you can't see it. So I'm just gonna repeat that same process with the remaining 3 pine cones. Ooh, that's a pretty placement, if I do say so myself. So at this point, the swag is pretty much done except for the top. So you notice I didn't like make any efforts to cover up the ends of the branches, and it looks a little rough up here. So you can go 2 different routes. You can either individually wire extra pieces of greens, you know, around the top to where it kind of hides the mechanics of the project, or you can go in with a nice festive bow, which hides all kinds of imperfections, and that's kind of my preferred method. So I'm gonna slide this to the side, and we're gonna make a nice bow. This is a 25-foot roll. Let's see how much of it I use. First off, I need to cut myself a piece of wire just to set aside. I'm going to use that in the end. Then I kind of figure out how long I want my tails to be and then make the tail a little bit longer than that. That way I have some play to cut it however short I want it to be. And then I pinch the ribbon and start making loops. So pinch, make a loop. And however big you make your loops will kind of dictate the size of bow you end up with, because you want all your loops to be fairly similar. I don't want this to be a massive bow, but I think about like that size is really nice. And you could do a simple, like just a simple bow, like tying your shoe kind of bow. What is that even called? It's probably got a name. Or you can do a florist bow that has several different loops like I'm doing right now. Totally personal preference. Okay, so I've got a big bunch of loops right here, a couple of tails. Let me cut this off real quick. We'll clean up the ribbon ends in a minute. And I've got it all pinched together still right in the center, and I'm just gonna run my wire underneath all of the ribbon so that both of the tails come out toward the back. And then we just twist the wire on itself as tightly as we can. And you will have 2 tails left, and that's what you want because that's what you will use to connect it to your swag. Now the bow looks like a mess right now, and we'll mess with it after we get it attached. I like to use wired ribbon for this type of project because then you can mold all the loops exactly how you want them to look, and they will stay put. So I'm just going to feed the tails back behind and tie them off, twist them together. Okay, now at this point I'm going to mess with the bow, cut my tails, and then I'm going to kind of look at the whole thing and decide if I need to wire in any individual pieces that I have left over, like little bits of pine if I've got kind of an empty spot. It's just such an easy project and doesn't take a lot of anything. I mean, you could run out to your garden and just cut like 5 or 6 branches and put something together like this. It's also 36 degrees. I'm about frozen. So I've been adjusting the ribbon a little bit, and I tucked it in a couple of spots, and that'll help keep it in place if a breeze comes up so that the tails won't be whipping all over the place. But I will probably have to adjust again just a little bit once I actually hang it on the door. I actually like to bring with me to the door a couple of extra little pieces along with some wire, just in case once I get it hung up there, if I see anything that's missing, I can always tuck a few more pieces in. Now that the swag's all done, I am going to apply something to it. Let me grab it. So this is called Wilt Stop. It's made from like a natural pine resin. And what it does is I'm going to spray the greens down, and it puts a nice coat on all of the greens, all of the needles, and helps moisture loss. So it will extend the life of any decoration that you have like this. Really good for Christmas trees too. Make sure I have a nice layer. So that is all there is to making a swag. I think they're every bit as pretty as a wreath. And I know some of you guys don't have like a traditional door in the sense like it's all one type of material. I know some of you guys have like little windows at the top or whatever, where a wreath doesn't make sense, but a swag might look a little bit better. And it's just a fun alternative and something so quick and easy to make. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go find a door to hang this on, and we'll show you what it looks like.